and welcome to the next episode of It's Your Time to Shine, a podcast about being a mom in a modern world. Today, I am here on location in Northern California with a good friend and an inspirational food blogger, spice maker, magic maker, Rina Sekon. Hi, Rina.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing really well.
Did that intro take you back a little bit?
One, I want to just say how impressed I am that you did not have to do that intro with 5 or 6 takes. You're just good.
Oh, it's not good. It's lack of preparation. But thank you. I like the positive spin on that.
No, because when I do my video blogs, I literally do my intro 8 times, and I'll be like, "Hi, welcome to." Okay, start over.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
You do a lot of your blogging alone, so maybe when you're by yourself, you're more critical.
No, I just forget.
That's awesome.
Yeah. My brain just leaves, and then I'm looking in the back of my brain, send the lines forward.
I'm not seeing them on the teleprompter.
Bring the people in the back of my brain. Hello, send the lines to my mouth, please.
That's awesome. Yeah. One of the things that I love about you is you're very transparent and you share your creative process quite a bit, just like you just did. But the reason I'm so excited to speak with you today is that not only are you a freaking amazing person, you have been so authentic and so real with sharing some of your personal stories and your personal journey. And I want to start, I'm not going to pull what's called doing a just breed and going super heavy and deep right off the bat. I want you to tell me a little bit about, you left a great position at a tech company a few years ago and to follow your dreams. Can you tell us a little bit about how you did that? How did you have the courage to do that? And what was that like?
First of all, heavy and deep is my specialty because that's my vagina.
Okay.
Which is why I left. Is because of my vagina. We were going through a lot of IVF cycles. We had done maybe at that point 14 embryo transfers, having a full-time job with a very demanding schedule. And I think I just got tired of doing it all.
Wow.
I just got tired, and I made that decision to leave Facebook without talking to my husband about it, without doing any financial planning. And I was done. I said, if my job right now is to get pregnant, then why am I spending all of my time managing projects that are not going to help me get to that goal? And, you read all this research where they're saying, well, stress and, what you eat and all these things affect you in conceiving. I just thought, if conceiving is what I'm trying to do, I'm not doing a very good job managing my stress, managing my body, managing my health, managing my food. That's what we need to do. And that was a very difficult thing for my husband to understand because, coming from an immigrant community where money is, what you need to survive and to build yourself up, we're going from DINKs, which is double income, no kids, to SINKs, single income, no kids. And that was a really big blow for him. And I had to stay strong in my conviction that I knew that I was doing the right thing, that I needed to take care of myself and create a good vessel so that if a baby ever chose to come through me, that I was ready to receive it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, how do I respond to that?
Well, you could say, yes, my vagina is very deep and heavy, and I would take that as a compliment.
Oh, I'm sure your vagina is very deep and very heavy. I'm not gonna go too further down that path because part of what you're sharing, your story, it's very intimate. Having that conversation with yourself, being willing to prioritize yourself. I mean, what you're saying makes perfect sense. And as you're describing that, I really am thinking about how we need to be more goal-oriented, or maybe not goal-oriented. We need to be more outcome-oriented and be realistic about the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. And so many of us, whether we're parents or we're not parents, women that are in the world have things that they want to achieve, but they have no plan as to how it's going to happen. Whether it's they want to make it big as a singer, or they want to be a famous food blogger on YouTube. Like, there is no plan. And so what you're saying is simple, but it's also very profound. And I'm getting a little choked up because it's really beautiful too. The fact that you took a stand and you were willing to say to everyone, this is something that's important to me. And I can't imagine a better quality in a friend, in a wife, or in a parent than someone who says nothing else matters except for this specific thing, and we're going to put all of our energy and efforts towards that. So I think that's wonderful. When you took that step, I'm sure that it took a lot of courage. I know you well, and I know that you don't share just the positives. You share everything, positive, negatives, and you really create this energy around you that's like, we're not perfect. And I love that, because that's one of my kind of like my anchor statements is like, with myself and with my kids, like, I'm not perfect, we're not perfect, but we're going to do things anyway. Tell me what it's like to be a woman of color in this IVF journey, talking about things that are often taboo.
You know, I'm so glad that we're going through IVF and I have not had a baby, because I think that if I would have had a baby 6-7 years ago or whenever we started, I would be a terrible person, because I had been so conditioned to just be fake all the time. You know, my parents did the best that they could in raising me, and, you know, and I appreciate everything that they taught me. But one of the things that they instilled in me was like, never tell people what's really going on. You always keep it behind the curtain. Oh, no, you don't share that. No, don't tell them. You know, you never let people know you're having financial issues, or if you can't afford something, you just say, oh, well, I don't want it, you know, instead of saying, hey, like, I can't actually afford that. Mm-hmm. You know, there's like some shame, I guess, that's associated with that. Or, you know, if you're having some sort of a disagreement with somebody, you know, you don't bring that information outside of the house. And so I had like carried that into my life, you know, like just with my husband and with my friends and with my work, and just always trying to be perfect, look perfect, sound perfect, be perfect, you know. And then you have what we have in our culture, which is women can do it all. They can have a perfect career, and they can have kids, and they can be skinny, and they can be gluten-free and dairy-free and calorie-free and low-fat-free, and just all this obsession of just like perfection. And when all this IVF started, I had to go to therapy. I had to really deal with what was going on within me, which was all this grief. And I realized that during this process, I had all this shame about this broken womanhood of not being able to conceive, that I would start to lie to people, like why we weren't having kids. Like, oh, you know, we're just not ready. Oh, you know, my career is really important right now. Like, in actuality, like, I'm taking medication to try to get pregnant, or we just did a timed IUI, or we just did timed intercourse, or like we had to have sex at a very specific time, you know, in accordance with our ovulation schedule. And we were at a wedding, and we had to leave to go home, have sex at exactly this time, and then get ready and then go to the reception. And instead of telling people the truth, we would have to make all these like elaborate lies, you know, about what was going on, and saying, oh, we're not really ready to have kids. But really, we're like, we made this huge lie. We're going home. We're like super stressed out.
You're pretending the air conditioning just broke at your house, but
yes.
Really.
Yeah, really, we're going home, and, you know, we've done the trigger shot to like send my eggs, you know, through the fallopian tube, and they're going to land in my uterus, and we need to get the sperm up my fallopian tubes before that happens. And there's like a 15-20 minute window, you know? And so you're just constantly lying. And I just was like, why am I lying? Like, why am I pretending? Yeah. And so I just started telling people. And the more that I would tell people, the more I realized that I had been living in a shadow of my former self. Like, I had just always been very open and honest about what I was feeling. But soon as all this stuff happened, I had been so conditioned to just conceal. You don't tell anybody what's going on. You don't let anybody know, because we have this concept of nazar, which is like, you know, the evil eye, or if you tell people, then it won't happen. And so you can't tell them because you don't want them to jinx you. And, you know, which is so counter to what Sikhism teaches.
Yes.
so then you're dealing with that, and you're like, well, what's right? You know, is what Sikhism teaches right, or what your parents tell you? Who are your parents? Are they right?
Yeah.
So then, you know, you get this therapist, and they don't know anything about your culture, and you're like, okay, but you don't know anything about my culture, and you're telling me I should just live openly and live my truth?
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I know. That's not what I've done.
Can you hand me a tissue from behind you? I'm sorry.
So I just realized that I was living in a shadow of my former self. And the more that I would speak out and the more that I would share what was going on, the more strength I found in my conviction of truth. Mm-hmm. And it made my whole family very uncomfortable. And it made my husband uncomfortable. And it makes people very uncomfortable. And that's kind of when I knew I was doing the right thing. But the uncomfortable, I knew I was doing the right thing, but that doesn't make it any less easy. Like it made it hard because my parents were very upset that I was posting on social media or I had told people that this is what we're going through. And it took them a really long time to understand what I was doing. And even now, I think that they've just surrendered.
Yeah. They're just letting it happen, but they still don't, at the
Yeah.
core, understand.
Yeah.
No, I think what you're saying takes a lot of, well, for one thing, it makes a lot of sense. And there are so many conflicting messages out there that we get, especially as Punjabi American women, because we have the benefit of having books and literature and art and poetry and music available to us. And I think that some of the antiquated child rearing that we were part of, and I say we're part of it because I think our parents too, like, we're dropped into these roles with no script and with no training and with no guidance. And so you have like a Punjabi dad who wants you to get married but doesn't want to let you talk to guys on the phone.
Yes.
Right? And then you have a Punjabi mom who wants you to be married and be happy and have kids, partly because that's the dream that we sell and partly because that's the dream that they had, right? And they want you to fall in love and they want it to be easy, and yet they've never talked to you about sex. Yeah. And they've never talked to you about having a period or menstruation or what that cycle entails.
Or they have never talked to you about how a man is supposed to treat you and what an healthy, intimate relationship looks like and what consent in a marriage looks like.
Right. And part of it is because they've never experienced it, so they don't know. Yeah. And it's like me going out into the world and saying, well, I want to teach someone how to play the drums. Yeah. Well, I don't know how to play the drums. Yeah. I know the drums are cool and I've seen people play them. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. And so it's scary and it's difficult. And I think the journey for me as a mom that is just now learning what that really means, 14 years into motherhood, by the way, I look at my parents and I look at my family and friends and masis and chachis and everyone who's given me advice, and I am very empathetic to them. Like, I'm very grateful for the gift of being able to see their imperfections and the imperfections that they gave me, because they didn't have to try and they tried. And they didn't have the tools, they didn't have the training, they didn't have the education or the money or any of the privilege that comes with knowledge and access to information. And yet they tried. And did they screw up? Yes, they screwed up on a bunch of things, and I've made a lot of mistakes. And my heart had been hardened, at times because of some of those things. But I think the willingness to try is still something that I revere and I hold close to my heart. And though now being older and having met parents and siblings who don't try and aren't willing to try has really shown me that there's something the effort is worth something, right?
First of all, you were an amazing mom. And if I could do it over and rebirth myself, I would rebirth myself through your vagina. So you could be my mom. And you're just amazing. I remember the first time I met you and Virgie, and you guys are just the most loving people. And I just was You know, like it's like a weird thing when you see Indian people.
Yeah.
They like don't smile or they like don't acknowledge you.
Yeah.
And you and Barmbir, you guys were like so loving and smiling, and you guys like welcomed me into your community. And that was like the first kindness I had ever felt in our community, because nobody does that.
You're so sweet.
So, you know, for you to say like you're like this mom that doesn't know what you're doing.
Oh, I very much don't know what I'm doing.
If you don't know what you're doing, then I don't even want to know what it's going to look like when I'm doing it. I'm going to be driving on the wrong side of the road, going backwards with 3 wheels.
You're so sweet. I do really feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I wake up every day like, whoa, all right, the sun rose today, guys. We're going to be okay.
Listen, your kids leave the house with clothes. I feel like that's a success.
Yes, totally. They do. And most of the time they have granola bars or something tucked into their pockets that they don't find until later. They're like, I was starving. And I'll say, but I gave you a granola bar. And they're like, oh, you did? Oh, okay. Suddenly this is my fault, not yours, Mom. And the conversation is no longer interesting to me.
Oh my God.
But you know, like kindness and love, I was given a lot of kindness and love and very little else really from my family. But that's the only thing that I really had to give. And I think going back to the comment that you made about where Sikhi and Punjabi culture are at odds, you know, where the tension occurs, the kindness and the love is like the path of the gurus that we can hold on to and that I can cling to. And it makes it makes life a little bit easier, because otherwise this is so hard. Everything we do is hard.
Oh my God. I spend my whole day just smiling at people. And if I see Punjabi people, I like really smile at them. And Mandeep is so good, my husband. We were our first European trip, and we were in Milan. And he saw a Sardar walking. He like made a beeline and he walks up and he goes, Kidda. And he was just so excited to see him. And the guy was just like, what are you doing talking to me? And Mandeep was like, what are you doing? Like, do you live here? Like, what's going on? Like, how are you? Like, what is it like to live here? Are you okay? Like, you know, you're a Singh in Italy. You've got a Dastar and the Thardi, and just like went into this full on deep conversation. And the guy's like, I'm just trying to get my visa right now and I'm late for my appointment. But like Mandeep just does that, and he'll like see anybody, and like, you know, if we ever have like a Punjabi taxi driver, like always tips them extra. And he like showed me that like, you know, we just need to like reach out to our community and like show them kindness and like not mean mug somebody from across the room.
Yeah. And so much of our community is influenced by outside influences, right? Because the stories that we inherit, the legacy that we inherit from our gurus from the 15th century and the 16th century is full of kindness. It's full of stories of people just experiencing love, like this divine love, and just folding into that. And then we get... we go through, you know, we get occupied by the British, and we go through all of these like extroverted cultures telling us like that dark skin is bad and that Muslims are bad and that Sikhism is a part of Hinduism. And, you know, like I think like there's so many influences. And so what it ends up being is like people are in competition with one another. And what you were saying about your parents not having that like, oh, nazar lag jayega, right? It's just like negativity. It all comes from like, assume that someone is trying to rape or pillage your family, and all actions like start with that truth. And so it's like a very violent upbringing, you know?
Yeah. And you know, and what I've tried to tell my parents is that my ability to articulate my feelings will emancipate me and will bring healing to others, then that is a seva that I will do.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And my parents heard that and received it and said, yeah, do it.
So tell me a little bit more about your mom. As you've been going through the IVF journey, has there been like a reconnection or a rekindling in your understanding of motherhood and conception and intimacy and how that works?
You know, my mom is not, like, you know how there are women that are like born to be moms? I think that my mom is not like a mom. Even as a grandma, she's not like a grandma. She's not very like touchy-feely. Like, she just doesn't have it. Like, that's not her thing.
Okay.
And, but she has so much sadness for what I'm going through. And, like, she'll meet like, you know, we were at this wedding a couple of years ago. A lot of things happened at this wedding. It was very interesting. We were at this wedding. There's this old woman there, somebody my mom knew. And she introduces me to her, and she goes, "Oh, this is my oldest daughter, Rena." And she goes, you know, she can't have a baby. And, you know, we just pray that she can. And then this woman starts talking, and this older woman starts talking and says, "Oh, you know, Bete, you know, like, I hope you have kids." And my mom is just like crying to this woman about how, like, I can't have a kid. And I'm like, what is going on? Like,
First of all, nice to meet you.
yeah, like,
Great weather we're having today.
Yeah.
The ceremony was beautiful.
yeah, may the Lord open.
Yes.
You know?
Blessed be the fruits.
And my mom is just going on, and I just held my mom's hand, and I said, okay, well, it's nice to meet you guys. See you later. And it was just like, my mom just expresses like all this deep sadness, like in these very weird scenarios. Like, like, I'll call her and tell her, like, hey, I'm having an embryo transfer. And it'll be like, okay, but go to the Gurdwara, like, I'm going to do ardas, and just it's going to happen. And like, that's it, right? And then there's like all this crying and emotion, and we're at this house, and there's all these people there, and there's this random woman I've never met, and she's just got all this emotion, and it's just coming out. And I try not to, like, I know that I'm very open, and so I share my journey, and everybody else is reacting to that journey. So I try not to get offended when people react to it. Like, that's their feeling, that's their journey. My mom is going through something. She feels a certain amount of shame, guilt, sadness, remorse, whatever, you know, like, she's got her own feelings. So I just, like, let her have them.
Okay.
And I don't try to tell her it's not, you know, don't worry. I don't try to say that. I don't say, hey, like, stop, or I just let it be.
Yeah.
You know? And a couple of months ago, it was Mother's Day, and I went to visit my mom, and I said, hey, you know, we're doing an embryo transfer. Or no, this is actually way before that. We had gotten a surrogate, a woman to carry our baby. And my dad goes, okay, you know, they can test for the embryos, like the sex. And my dad, you know, he has 3 daughters, no son. And he goes, so you should put in a boy embryo.
Oh my gosh.
And my mom goes, no, we want whatever is healthy. It doesn't matter. Jikuri hove, munda hove, it's okay. And that was the first time that I had ever heard my mom say like a very feminist thing, which is like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And I was like so proud. And then my dad was like, yeah, okay, you know, we just want a healthy baby. And then like walks away from it. And that for me was like very healing, being like a daughter, the firstborn, my birthday falling on Lordy, which is like this, I have this terrible relationship with, because it's like the celebration of the first boy, and I'm not a first boy, I'm a first girl.
Right.
And for my mom to like validate that was like so healing for me.
Yeah. And that probably took a lot from her too.
Yeah, and I think that she's like gotten to this journey where it's like, I mean, this whole selection of boy versus girl is really obsolete. We just want a healthy baby. Yeah. And then Mother's Day is when I went to go visit her, and she said, you don't need to do this to your body anymore. Like, stop with the injections, stop with the experimental treatments, stop killing yourself being dairy-free, gluten-free, like, just stop and just adopt. And it doesn't matter she's like, you will love that child. And she was like, you love your dog. You know, and for me, I was just like, oh my God, like this, like, how can this woman who had birthed 3 daughters, had to go through that shame of not having a son, who has endured my IVF journey, is now saying, like, let's go adopt. Like, let's, you know, like, it doesn't matter. Like, a kid is a kid, and like, you want to be a mom, and I want you to be a mom, and I support your decision to adopt. And that's always been a very insecure place for me that I have not come to terms with my husband, is like, what would happen if we did adopt like a non-biological child, and would we love this child, and what would it do to our marriage? And then also, like, how would we protect this child from our community?
Right.
You know, we're like, oh, well, that's not really your kid, or, you know, or what if we're not really ready to share that our child is adopted, or whatever. Like,
Sure.
Like, how do we assert boundaries? And that was always like a contentious point for us, is, are we strong enough to protect our child from people saying damaging things that might really harm the self-esteem of our adopted child? And when my mom said that, it gave me, like, I could breathe. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need to necessarily worry about this.
Yeah.
So she gave me that freedom.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think creating space for our people, whether it's your children or your friends or your soulmates or your lovers or whoever it is the greatest gift we can give them.
Yeah.
And I think that's wonderful. And the adoption thing, you know, I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, you and I were talking about adoption.
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago. And I remember you saying that the connection, the biological connection is there. And I won't refute that. You know, I'm a chemist, so I have an undergrad degree in science. And I know there are some things that are undeniably connected through evolution and through biology. But I will tell you, like, there are a lot of things that it doesn't matter. And I would say that there are so many people that I feel closely connected to that I have no blood relation with. And I have to feel that we're kindred spirits. Like, I have people that I've met. My co-host for the podcast, Lisa, is one of them.
I'm so bummed she's not here, because I talk to the both of you on your podcast. I mean, you guys don't talk back to me.
We're always talking. We're always talking to you, Rena. But you know, the truth is, like, I met her, and we were just talking about this last week. I met her, and instantly, like, you know, we had a connection, and we were like best friends. And because we're both girls, and because we're both Punjabi, we had that, you know, we had layers of connections. And I do think, like, you know, if she were a guy, she would probably, maybe I would have gotten married to her, you know? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that type of connection in Western society is so often sexualized and becomes like a romantic thing. But because we're both girls and we're both Punjabi, we could be best friends. Yeah. And it was beautiful. And it's good that we didn't get married, because I met another soulmate later, and you know, a few years later, and ended up getting married to him. But my point is that we have these deep connections. And the connection that you have with Mandeep is not biological. And you love him. I've seen you guys together. And I've seen your Instagram stories where you'll like bust in on him in the shower.
Our relationship that is one thing I don't really talk about. And I hope one day I have the courage to share the truth behind our marriage, because it has been through the ringer. And he is so different than who I married, but who I always knew he was.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So the concept of adoption and that concept of like bonding with someone and trying to protect your child and having that biological connection or not, I think, like, I get that it's a journey, and it is one that I contemplate often, because I always wanted to have 4 kids. I don't know if anybody knows that, but the truth is out now. And to this day, I will play with other people's babies, and my uterus starts to glow, and my husband does not want to have any more children.
I mean, you could adopt me.
I will definitely adopt you.
We could even like do the diaper thing. Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that, because I'm already like, oh, I don't know if I could do diapers again. But
It's awesome. I come potty trained.
so convenient.
I do bleed once a month.
That see now the nostalgia of having a baby and adopting again is starting to wear off. No, but really, you know, I wanted to have another child, and so I had this this feeling that, you know, did I make the wrong decision or did I do something wrong? And something that I don't widely share is that I have 3 children, but I've been pregnant 5 times, and feeling like there was a 4th that I should have had, you know, is a demon in a way of my own that I'm constantly talking to and then pushing away and then comes back. You know, it's one of those things that it's one of my struggles. And I'm not saying struggle like in a negative way. I don't wake up every morning and cry about it, and it doesn't haunt me. But it is a constant open question. And I think when we have open questions, we let them torment us, and they kind of float around in my mind, you know, quite a bit. But one of the things, like the way that I live my life every day, and it's not something I think about on a daily basis, I'm just being brutally honest with you, is that when you have something like this nagging voice, this persistent thought, I truly believe like there is something behind that. What it becomes, I don't know. You know, part of it became a podcast because I had things that I wanted to talk about, things that I wanted to share, you know, with others, things that I wanted to learn about myself. And having the conversation allows me to be intimate and be authentic at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the process of kind of going through that as you're thinking about IVF and you're thinking about adoption and you're thinking about how you have this adorable little dog who will do anything you say and
Who is the love of my life.
and you will do anything for him.
Oh my God. I remember when we got Enzo, and I told my Mama G, I said I would give all the money in the world if Enzo was kidnapped. And my Mama G like looked at me like I was crazy. And I stand by those words today still.
And so is it any question that you would love a child that you spend your entire life with? Kids are like rain. You wait and wait and wait for the rain. And then the rain comes and you're like, oh, this is beautiful. And then you go outside and everything's muddy and gross. And then you wait.
Yeah.
And then flowers grow.
Yeah.
Kids are exactly like the rain.
I am so excited for my Target meltdown. Like when my kid just like lays down in the toy aisle. I'm going to document it.
Yes.
And I'm just going to be super happy. And I'll probably start crying of like tears of joy. And my kid will just look at me like, why are you not reacting like other moms and giving into me right now?
And your hashtag will be like, this baby was totally worth $324,000.
And 32 cents.
Yes. Who is nickel and diming you for IVF shots? I want to have a word with them. 32 cents. Oh my goodness.
My God. The IVF clinic where we first started, it's a baby factory. Mm-hmm. It is a baby factory, and they treat you like a baby factory. And they really do have sense, like on some of the things. Like when you get the invoices, you're like, how did you come to this? How did you come to 13 cents? Like, you know, how did you come to like $112.13?
Yeah.
Like,
why? Yeah. Well, why don't we just go ahead and round that down?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to stop the conversation, but we're at that point where it's time to pause for a moment, because October is National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And not only do we want to share our stories, but we also want to start a conversation with our listeners too. So tell us what you think. Send us your feedback on Instagram, Facebook, or even email. And then join us again next time when we continue talking about IVF and what the journey means for men, mental hygiene, and women's reproductive rights. And as always, thanks for listening.